Today's episode is inspired from my Self-Care Society class titled Making Optimism Easy. So we are going to look at cultivating more optimism in our life. Now, before we jump in, I wanted to let you know that we recently launched our 6th U-Year program, and it's unlike anything we've done before. While many choose to do the U-Year program at the start of the new year, it's also the perfect way to kick off a new birthday, a life transition, or for really any time you're looking for a fresh start. Now, you're going to gain lifetime access, so grab it now and dig in at any time. If you love the idea of creating an inspiring, realistic, and exciting annual plan for the year ahead, as well as creating the systems that truly help you live that out, U-Year is going to help you do all of that and more. And you can learn more at selfcaresociety.co. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk about optimism. Our quote this morning says, "Optimism is a strategy for making a better future. Because unless you believe that the future can be better, it is unlikely that you will step up and take responsibility for making it so. If you assume that there's no hope, you guarantee that there will be no hope." Noam Chomsky. So, wow, like putting the power back in our hands and back on our plates to show up and create the life that we desire. And sure, we're all coming from different places and different starting points, but optimism allows us to look at life through the lens of what's working and what could possibly go right. Okay, so the dictionary says that optimism is defined as hopefulness. It's a confidence about the future or the successful outcome of something. And I don't know about you, but living life with a confidence that things will go well and things will go right sure as hell feels a lot better than the alternative. Okay, so let's do our pause and practice. I want you to just embody right now what it feels like to be an optimistic person. And maybe use an affirmation to help you get there to that sort of vibration. I am optimistic. Everything works out for me. Like whatever it takes for you to feel that in your body. For me, it just feels light. It feels exciting. It feels expansive. Just to be optimistic. What if it all works out? Okay, so take this feeling. If your eyes are closed, open them. And carry it with you. Carry it with you through our episode. Carry it with you through today. Carry it with you for as long as you possibly can. Now, a little about optimism in my life. Like when it comes to optimism and a moment in my life when I really had to lean on it and create it for myself, there's a memory that pops up really, really clearly for me. And this is when I bought my first home. Now, I had been self-employed for almost a decade, and on paper, I really just did not look like the ideal candidate for a mortgage. I didn't qualify for a traditional loan, and I had to talk to many different people and look at many different options in my journey to home ownership. I had no consistent income, and I just think I seemed like a big risk to the banks, which is understandable. Now, on top of that, I'd been house hunting for a while under this sort of false understanding that I was pre-qualified and that getting the loan would be easy, like that would be an issue. And of course, as you learn more about buying a home and that process, you learn that pre-qualified doesn't mean just that. And so I had invested a lot of my time and a ton of resources and a ton of energy into finding the perfect place. And I remember walking into my current home, the one we lived in. So what's the word I'm looking for? Spoiler alert, we did end up getting the house, but we'll get there. So I walked into this current home, and at the time it was late 2019, and I just knew. I remember just knowing this is the house for us. The price was right. The space was amazing. It just checked all the boxes. And so I put in my offer and I started the loan process, and only to find out that it was not what I assumed. And eventually it all fell through, and they ended up putting the house back on the market. And eventually another buyer came along and wanted the home. And I was like, no, like, this is our home. It felt so clearly like it was our home. And I just did everything I possibly could to move forward. I took practical action. I found an alternative loan source. Even if the interest rate sucked, I knew I could refinance down the road. I got them everything they needed as soon as possible so I could keep things moving along. I was constantly checking in. And then, of course, I also leaned on my more woo-woo practices, as one might say, in a really big way. So every day I would look at the listing photos of this house. Like I would look in detail and I would just observe it and look at all these photos. I would rewatch the video that I took when we went to actually view the house and see myself there. Like, and I really did a lot of seeing myself living there and visualizing my days there with my family and how I would navigate through the home. Like I saw myself having breakfast in the kitchen I was seeing in the photos and how I'd put our rooms together. And I wrote gratitude daily as if the home was already mine. So I really, like, I wanted this so badly. And I was trying everything in me to stay optimistic about it. And I eventually got the news that the other person's offer they'd put in had fallen through. And that the alternative loan that I had been working on to secure was finally approved. And I remember I signed the paperwork while I was out of town in Boston. I was on a modeling job, and I literally signed my housing paperwork in the lobby of a Marriott hotel across the country from where I was buying the house. And I just could not believe that this was happening. And I had stayed optimistic as I could through this entire experience. And no matter how many doors closed on my face, and it paid off. And today I get to live in that dream home with my beautiful growing family. And I'm so grateful every day in this house. Like, I love it so much. It's always in my gratitude practice. And I'm really proud of the optimism that I held on to, even when it was really hard, that helped us to get there. And that, my friends, is like the power of this, is staying in that vibration. So a few tips on having and cultivating more optimism in your life. So one thing is to recondition yourself to ask, what could go right? What could go right? It's so easy to look around and think about all that could go wrong and all that we could lose and all that might fail. But we often forget to look around and, on the flip side, honor what might go right. Okay, so we'll practice that today, but really changing that narrative. Also, practicing gratitude really helps us strengthen, this muscle. Okay, so like thinking about what you're grateful for, obviously, is switching your lens to looking at what is working. I also want you to pause and think about that all that has gone well for you in life, right? Making a list. It's hard not to be optimistic when you look at the hard facts of what has really worked out for you in your life, because a lot has, or you wouldn't be here right now. And then another thing is to remember that what you are excited and optimistic about and what you want and desire is usually something that helps others too. And you might ask yourself, like, what if you wrote that book that you've always dreamed about writing? Could it help millions of people? Could it change the world? Can you be optimistic about the reality of your own dreams coming true? And can you remember that when things are really hard, it almost always means that you are on your way towards something better and brighter. And that when life gives you all of this contrast and things feel like they're working against you, you then get to switch into optimism and know that it means that expansion and joy and growth are right around the corner. So let's practice feeling more optimism together with some exercises straight from Self-Care Society classes. And as always, I will give you a moment to pause and to ponder, but you can pause the recording or the video at any time if you want more time and more space. You're also going to hear some inspiring examples from our live classes as well. And as always, you can join us for a full schedule of live and on-demand classes at selfcaresociety.co. Okay, so our first exercise is called, what could go right? So I've encouraged you that we need to start thinking this way, and now I'm going to challenge you to actually practice it. So think about the new week or the new month ahead, and I want you to reminisce on all the possibilities for what could go right, okay? You can use the prompt, I could, to help, okay? So my example, as I said, this month I could have more energy and clarity than I have in so long. This month, I could have many exciting opportunities that come my way. This month, I could lift heavy weights. This month, I could spend a ton of time reading in the hammock. This month, I could be even more present with my family. Okay, so you can look at the month ahead, the week ahead, the day ahead, whatever time frame feels good to you. What could go right? Okay, so Stephanie says, this month I could feel confident and comfortable in my body. Kim says, this month I could have 31 great workouts that give me the energy, confidence, and vibrance I crave. Annie says, this month I could accept more help and share my gratitude and appreciation. All right, so our next exercise is a gratitude exercise called Thanks for What's to Come. And I want you to clarify gratitude, saying thank you for all that this month or this week might bring you. So this is an exercise in optimism because we are saying thank you as if it's already arrived. So what are you calling in this week? What are you calling in today? What are you calling this month? Again, whatever time frame feels good, and say thank you as if it's already arrived. Okay, so for example, I said, thank you for continued simplicity and ease. Thank you for improvements to my space that feel good in my soul. Thank you for deeper intimacy with loved ones. So take a moment to think about, okay, what do you want? What do you desire? What are you calling it? And say thank you as if it's already arrived. Okay, so Ashley says, thank you for all the consistency in truly caring for my body. Tiffany says, thank you for allowing me the space to develop my healthy habits and intentions with exercise and meal prepping regularly. And Carrie says, thank you for my focus on gratitude, joy, and wonder at things big and small. Beautiful. So our next exercise is an intentionality exercise called What If? Okay, so I want you to think about a risk or an action that you might take in your life. Okay, and this might be a goal or a dream or whatever. So what if you wrote that book? What if you reserved that ticket? What if you told that person how you felt? What if you sold it all and lived on the road? What if you lived abroad or started that business or got that certification or made that purchase or applied for that scholarship? Okay, so think of any dream you have and then keep clarifying for yourself all the ways it could go really right. Okay, so usually when we have a risk or a dream or a goal, we focus on like all of the ways that this could go wrong. But we're going to shift this. We're going to practice flexing this muscle. What ways could it go right? Okay, so for example, I said, what if I just wrote that book? Well, I might help thousands or even millions to improve their life. I could have publishers and editors fighting over who gets to support it. It could create opportunities beyond my wildest dreams. I could create a platform that could help millions of people. Okay, so what is one risk, one dream, one goal that you have? And how could it go really right? What could happen? All right, so take a minute here. So Kelsey says, what if I got my master's in health and wellness coaching? I would love my job, make my own schedule, help others grow and be their best selves, be more present for my daughter, learn more ways to grow in my journey. I would have a master's degree. I would earn a bigger income. Sherry says, what if I made plans to live in Europe part of the next year? I could rent the house out for income. I could explore and experience new places and people to grow and expand. I could meet the love of my life. Like all the ways that things can go right. So our next exercise is an affirmation exercise called Affirming Optimism. And I want you to create an affirmation statement to really remind you that things work out for you and that you can be optimistic about life. So even if you're like, I don't buy it, I don't feel like it, I don't care. I want you to give it a shot. What would it feel like to change that narrative and to say, things work out for me? Okay, so what is the statement or statements? What kind of affirmative words would you like to hear? Would you like to believe and absorb and embody that would help you step into more optimism? So my example, I said, life is always working out for me. I trust that things are getting better with every day and that having hope is a wise choice. The more I step into my authentic being and share her with the world, the more opportunities come my way. The more I can make a positive impact. Okay, so take a moment here, write down or think about what is that affirmative statement that you want to tell yourself, that you want to believe and embody, that helps you live a little bit more optimistically. All right, Angie says, all things happen for a reason. I trust it all works out. The path is lush and full of wonder. Kim says, life gets better for me each time I let my heart lead the way. Megan says, I am exactly where I need to be. So if you're getting stuck on that, you can always feel free to borrow from our Self-Care Society community members and their examples. That's why we share them. Hopefully they'll inspire you to, dig a little deeper within yourself. So our final exercise is a clarity exercise called an optimistic life. And I want you to think about your life and what you're optimistic will happen at some point. You can use the prompts. In my life, I'm optimistic that ... Okay, so this should be really fun. This is just an opportunity to dream, to think about the dreams you have for yourself and the experiences that you want, and to state your optimism about them. So for example, I said, in my life, I'm optimistic that I'll spend time living abroad in a different country. In my life, I'm optimistic that one day I won't use any social media. In my life, I'm optimistic that I'll build an intimate and trusting relationship with my children. In my life, I'm optimistic that one day money will not be of any concern. Okay, so what are you calling in? Okay, and maybe it's hard for you, right? Like, it's not easy for me to write those statements. I know that they're complex and, it's risky to say with such confidence that it'll happen. But if I don't stay in my optimism around them, then, how the heck else am I going to get there? Right? So think about that. What are you optimistic about in your life? In your life, in my life, I'm optimistic that ... All right, Kim says, in my life, I am optimistic that I will be one half of the sweet old couples that share a tender, gentle love. Jess says, I am optimistic that I will laugh every single day. I am optimistic that our country's relationship to guns and punishment will heal and transform to center humanity. Carrie says, I have a blessed life and I am filled with gratitude for all those blessings, lessons, and love in my life. Money flows to me easily. Everything goes my way. And I have indelible trust in the universe and the source energy that lives within me. I am the hope in this world. My energy matters. Wow, that was a really powerful one, Carrie. Thank you so much. Now, as we wrap up, I just want to remind you that optimism really is a muscle that we can strengthen with practice over time. So the exercises we did today can be repeated over and over as you recondition yourself to look at all that could go right. Okay, so being optimistic, it doesn't mean you are ignoring the reality of things. It simply means that you can step back and see things from a variety of perspectives and that you're willing to consider how it all might work out for the best. Thank you so much for joining me today on your morning mindset practice. I hope you're feeling more optimistic, and I'd love for you to come join us at selfcaresociety.co for a live or on-demand class so that you can stay consistent with your self-care, connect with other like-minded people, and continue filling your cup so you can overflow onto the world. We need you. I'll see you next time.